It is day 7 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Here's a look at what's happening across the biggest cities in Ukraine right now. In Kyiv, there are reports that there is a 40-mile long convoy of Russian armored vehicles. It's just about 15 miles north of the capital of Kyiv. There was a TV tower that was attacked and 5 people were killed in that attack. Those are pictures from ground zero in Kyiv, where fighting has intensified. Let's now get you an update from Kharkiv. Now this is where, remember, there are still thousands of Indian students that are stranded. There were 4 people who were killed and 9 wounded during shelling in Kharkiv. In the latest, we are told by our reporters on the ground that there are reports at the moment of another government building that's been attacked next to the train station. Now remember, the Indian government has of course asked students to leave Kharkiv. That deadline ends in 1.5 hours from now. Let's get you an update now from Kherson, the other big city in Ukraine, where the Russian military has now claimed to have taken control of Kherson. Now here's the alarming advisory that's been issued by the Indian embassy in Ukraine to all Indian nationals in Kharkiv. Indian nationals have been asked to immediately leave Kharkiv. There was not 1, not 2, but 3 advisories that were issued within the span of 1 hour, talking about the deteriorating situation on the ground, urging Indian citizens to leave immediately by any means available. The advisory even very categorically says, and you can see that advisory there on your screens, that you walk if you have to, but immediately leave Kharkiv. Now this is an advisory that has been issued with great detail. The advisory also details 3 locations that have been identified where Indian students have been asked to walk if there are no buses or trains or cabs that are available to them. Let's just put out that graphic. There are 3 locations that have been identified at 11 kilometers to 16 kilometers in the outskirts of Kharkiv. Those are the 3 locations that have been identified at the moment. 1 11 kilometers away, 1 12 kilometers away, 1 16 kilometers away. But the viability of accessing these locations is the big challenge for Indian students. Hundreds of them at the Kharkiv railway station who we've been speaking to say they've never even heard of these places. There is shelling in Kharkiv. The situation is extremely tense. If they have to walk, it will still be hours before they can actually access what the Indian embassy is telling them is safe points. Meanwhile, here's what the Ministry of External Affairs had to say today.
Advisory that has just been issued by our embassy a little while ago and also by us on the need for our nationals to leave Kharkiv immediately is on the basis of information received from Russia.
So leave Kharkiv by any means available. That deadline ends at 9:30 p.m. tonight India time, ends at 6 p.m. Ukrainian time. But what is the reality on the ground? Can Indian students, hundreds of them at the Kharkiv railway station currently, even access these areas? We spoke with an Indian student, Himanshu, at the station just moments ago. Here's what he told us.
खार्किव से निकलने वाला था, लवीव जाने वाला था, बॉर्डर क्रॉस करने वाला था, लेकिन जो यूक्रेनियंस हमें ट्रेन बोर्ड करने नहीं दे रहे हैं, गन शॉट फायर कर रहे हैं, हमें डरा रहे हैं, धमका रहे हैं, हम लोगों को ट्रेन में चढ़ने नहीं दिया जा रहा और लड़कियों को मारा भी जा रहा है, लड़कों को मारने की धमकी भी दी जा रही है।
आपको कौन थ्रेटन कर रहा है? कौन ट्रेन में नहीं चढ़ने दे रहा है?
जो यूक्रेनियन नॉर्मल जो यहाँ पे सिविलियंस हैं वो लोग मैम।
और आप कितने स्टूडेंट्स हैं इस वक्त खार्किव स्टेशन पर?
मैम हम अप्रॉक्स 800 स्टूडेंट्स हैं।
800 स्टूडेंट्स हैं आप?
यस मैम, यस। और मैम हाथ में 5 मिनट के बाद मिसाइल्स भी रशियन आर्मी की तरफ से फेंके गए, तो ब्लास्ट भी हुआ, तो हम बहुत डर चुके हैं मैम।
3 जगह हैं जो इंडियन एम्बेसी ने लिखी है एडवाइजरी में, आप कैसे पहुंचेंगे ये जगह तक?
मैम शेलिंग हो रही है, फायरिंग हो रही है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कैसे जाया जाए मैम। बहुत खतरा है मैम बाहर जाने में।
ये 3 जगह जो हैं ये कहाँ हैं आपको पता है?
हेलो, नहीं पता मैम, कोई आइडिया नहीं है मैम।
So the advisory on one hand and the plight of the students on the ground on the other. While the Indian government has ramped up its efforts around bordering countries to bring back Indian students, the challenge really is accessing the border in the first place. Desperate students are now walking in the war zone.
Desperate Indian students at Kharkiv struggling to get local transport walk to the railway station instead. Just hours after the bombing and killing of an Indian student. But at the Kharkiv railway station, no relief. Hours of waiting with platforms full of Indian students but restricted trains that they aren't even allowed to board alleged Indian stranded students, adding that soldiers now not allowing them to take videos.
हम लोग अभी है खारकीव रेलवे स्टेशन पे और हम 3 घंटे से यहाँ पे खड़े हुए हैं और हमें अंदर घुसने नहीं दिया जा रहा। एक ट्रेन आके चली जा चुकी है और जिसमें से सबको बाहर निकाला गया है। मुझे नहीं पता क्यों, ठंडी पड़ रही है, बर्फ पड़ रही है और हमें नहीं पता कि अगली ट्रेन में भी हमें घुसने दिया जाएगा या नहीं।
But as they wait at the station for hours, this short notice, urgent advisory by the Indian embassy emerges, asking them to leave Kharkiv immediately and to reach either of the 3 settlements by evening.
गन शॉट फायर कर रहे हैं, हमें डरा रहे हैं, धमका रहे हैं। हम लोगों को ट्रेन में चढ़ने नहीं दिया जा रहा और लड़कियों को मारा भी जा रहा है, लड़कों को मारने की धमकी भी दी जा रही है।
ये सुमी का बंकर्स।
In Sumy, northeastern border of Ukraine, closer to Russia, worried students still at the hostels, waiting for directions from the embassy on where to move.
There are bombardments and firing, knives, tanks, and other lot of dangerous things happens, and we don't feel safe anymore. Like we are running to bunkers. Our nearest border is Russia.
India has raised requests to evacuate Indians via Russia as well, among other neighboring countries of Ukraine.
We are in touch with the Indian authorities as regards the citizens of India currently in Kharkiv. We have received the Indian requests for the emergency evacuation of all those stuck there.
यूक्रेन में अभी भी बहुत बच्चे फंसे हुए हैं, उनको भी अभी तक कुछ इंडियन एम्बेसी नहीं निकलवा पा रही है। सिर्फ यहाँ के कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स जो हमारे पर्सनल कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स थे जो हमें यहाँ पे लाए थे, सिर्फ वो हमें निकाल रहे हैं।
While government claims that around 12,000 of the 20,000 Indians have been evacuated, for Indians stranded in eastern Ukraine, the ordeal to navigate their own way to safety is harrowing. Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
Jyoti Air reporting for NDTV from Ground Zero in Kyiv joins us on the news tonight. We also have Divyanshu Chauhan along with other students from the Sumy State University, just 3 hours away from Kharkiv, joining us. We'll come to you, Divyanshu, in just a moment. Jyoti, to you first. The situation in Kharkiv is deteriorating, and in about an hour and a half from now, that deadline for the evacuation of Indians ends. What's the latest you're picking up?
Yeah, exactly. So 1 hour and 24 minutes. In 1 hour and 24 minutes, the students are supposed to reach those 3 locations. So Pisochyn, Babai, Bezlyudivka, and they're 12, 15, and 16 kilometers away. It will, if they are walking, and they are walking, many students are walking. It's going to take them about 2 to 3 hours to get to any of these locations. And clearly this deadline, this time, has been given for a reason. At 6 p.m., it appears as though there is going to be some sort of operation in Kharkiv, so those students have to get out now. Now, in the process of getting out, they are walking in an area that's been shelled this morning, this afternoon. The train station is just about 10 minutes away where administrative buildings received fire this morning, and there's a lot of destruction. We don't know at this point exactly injuries, casualty numbers exactly, but so even while these students are trying to get to these safe havens, these safe locations, they're not safe walking there, and getting any sort of transportation vehicle at this point is pretty much out of the question.
Right, and Jyoti, you've had a chance to look at that advisory as well. How accessible are these 3 areas that have been listed out, in the Indian Embassy's, sort of advisory that's been put out, where they've told Indians who are stranded at Kharkiv to just walk to these areas if they have to, but they absolutely must evacuate.
These are not really walkable areas. You wouldn't normally walk 3 hours anywhere, I don't think. So these are basically, you've got Kharkiv, you've got the city center, that's where the train station is, that's where all these kids were. And what the government is telling them to do is to walk out 2 to 3 hours to these suburbs in an area that's being shelled. So first of all, it's not such a walkable distance. It's frigid temperatures. It's snowing. And on top of it, it's an area that's being shelled. So either way, it's at a distance. It's dangerous to walk there. And even it's not exactly clear what they're going to do when they get there.
Thanks very much, Jyoti, for joining us with the very latest. We will, of course, keep coming back to you for more updates. I do want to go across to Divyanshu and, a bunch of Indian students who are joining us from the Sumy State University at the moment. We are learning that there are about 900 students at the Sumy State University who are still waiting for any further information from the Indian Embassy on whether they should stay put or what they should do at the moment. Divyanshu, what is the latest that you've heard from the Indian Embassy?
Ma'am, they don't reply us and they don't attend us call.
And how many students are there with you?
Here are more than 800 students.
What is the situation at your university at Sumy at the moment? We know that you're about 3 hours away from Kharkiv.
Yes, ma'am. We are from here. Kharkiv is 3 hours away, and we are here is so much bad critical situation.
What's happening where you are? Are you hearing? What are you hearing? What are you seeing outside?
Yes, ma'am. We hear so many bomb blasts, and anytime they do shoot, and we hear so many firings, and we hear anytime siren, and then we go to bunker, and our life is going like hell.
You're describing this as hell. One can't even imagine what you all and your families are going through at the moment. But tell us, Divyanshu, do you have access to food and water at the university?
Ma'am, almost our food and water is finished.
Okay. And
yes,
what are you planning to stay put at the university right now? Are you planning to access any of the border areas?
No, ma'am. Yet nothing.
तो वहीं रहेंगे अभी के लिए?
Yes, ma'am. फिलहाल तो हम यहीं हैं, लेकिन
आगे का कुछ सोचा है आप लोगों ने कि क्या करेंगे? बॉर्डर एरियाज तक जाएंगे कि वहीं रहेंगे?
Ma'am, here the situation is going very worse day by day. No one knows what should happen after the hours. That's why we are so panicked and frustrated.
Indian Embassy ने आप लोगों को कुछ बोला है? Have they said anything to you? Have they reached out to you? Have you tried to reach out to them?
तो मैम वो कॉल भी नहीं अटेंड कर रहे हैं.
और आप कह रहे हैं कि around 800 to 900 students, Indian students are at the university. और भी देशों के students हैं? Are there other nationals there as well?
Yes, ma'am. We are from the Turkey and the Nigeria, Ghana, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. But ma'am, in our university, about 900 students are stuck here in Sumy. The biggest problem for us, we can't traveling 20 hours from Sumy to Romania, Hungary, Poland. It's about 1400 kilometers. In between this road, more than 20 checkposts of Russian army he touched us. One of my Nigerian friend yesterday, he goes from Sumy to Lviv. He get lots of trouble from the Russian army. That's why you are so afraid and don't want to escape from Sumy. We have only one option to cross the border through the Russia.
Okay.
We are requesting to government talk with Russia and evacuate Sumy student through the Moscow. Okay. It's better way.
Okay. Well, we sincerely hope that the government is listening to these stranded students at the Sumy University. They're saying that the western borders are very far away from them. They have no access to any of those western borders from where evacuations are largely taking place. Therefore, they are urging the government to facilitate a safe passage for their evacuation from the Russian border. Thank you very much. We hope that you all stay safe, and thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Meanwhile, there's been a rapid escalation of the Russian offensive on day 7 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There were paratroopers that attacked Kharkiv. TV tower in Kyiv was hit, and the Russian military now claims that they've taken control of Ukraine's Kherson.
On day 7, Russian paratroopers landed in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Only yesterday, dozens of civilians, including an Indian student, were killed in Russian bombings. The Ukrainian military says Russian troops also attacked a regional military hospital. A missile struck key buildings belonging to the police, the Security Service of Ukraine and Kyiv National University on Wednesday morning. The city's mayor says Kharkiv is partially surrounded by the Russian army, which the Ukrainian military is currently holding back heroically. The Russian military claims to have taken control of the Black Sea port city of Kherson, a claim Ukraine has denied. But if Russia has captured it, experts say it would be a big blow to Ukraine, since it is located strategically on the Dnieper River and therefore becomes crucial for movement of supplies. Another Ukraine's port city in the southeast, Mariupol, is reportedly under constant shelling from Russia. The BBC is reporting that a 40-mile-long convoy of Russian armored vehicles is about 15 miles north of the capital, Kyiv. There are also reports of local resistance to Russian forces. These pictures show a highway in Zaporizhzhia where local residents put up a fight. Another video shows the National Guard of Ukraine. Russia's foreign minister, meanwhile, upped the ante and warned of a nuclear war. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has sought help from the United States, saying it is important to stop the aggressor at the earliest. Ukraine claims it has killed 5,840 Russian troops. For now, the Russian military action is facing better than expected resistance from Ukraine, but it has also become more aggressive. NDTV Bureau Report.
Well, moving on, the US president has vowed to make Putin pay for the invasion of Ukraine, but also clarified that the United States won't fight Russian troops on the ground. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian President Zelensky has come out and said that there are almost 6,000 Russian soldiers who've also been killed.
But while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains.
Це вже за межею людяності. Такий ракетний удар свідчить, що для багатьох людей в Росії наш Київ абсолютно чужий. Вони нічого не знають про нашу столицю, про нашу історію. Але у них є наказ стерти нашу історію, стерти нашу країну, стерти нас усіх. Російські матері втрачають дітей в абсолютно чужій для них країні. Вдумайтесь у це число. Майже 6 тисяч загиблих росіян.
According to international media reports, the Russian foreign minister today has said that if there were to be a third world war, it will involve nuclear weapons. More than 500,000 Ukrainians, remember, have fled the fighting so far. Lavrov said that Russia, which launched what it called a special military operation against Ukraine last week, would face a real danger if Kyiv acquired nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, a grieving family back here in India is waiting for the body of their son. NDTV spoke to Naveen's family. They said that universities didn't shut down in time in Ukraine. Universities told Indian students that there would be no war. Now all they want is for their son's body to be brought back home.
About 10 kilometers from Ranebenur Taluk is a small village named Chalagiri, about 300 kilometers from capital city Bengaluru. This is the village where 21-year-old Naveen, the first Indian to be killed in the Ukraine war, spent his childhood playing on these muddy streets. From a farming family of modest means, Ukraine was the best option for their son, who scored 97%. They couldn't afford the so-called donation of 1 crore for a medical seat, and Ukraine was an alternate option which cost him just around 25 lakhs.
ಕೋಟಿ ಕೋಟಿ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಈ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇರೋದ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಲಿ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಕೋಟಿ ಕೋಟಿ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 50-60 ಲಕ್ಷದಾಗ ಆಕತಿ ಅಂದರು ಆ ಹೋಪ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ವಿ ಪ್ರತಿಭೆ ಎತ್ತು ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ವಿ ಪ್ರತಿಭೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ದನ ಕಾಯಪ್ಪ ಹೊಲ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ವಿ ಬಡವ್ರ ಮನೆಯಾಗ ಪ್ರತಿಭೆಗಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಬಾರ್ದು ಪ್ರತಿಭೆಗಳಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಲೆನೇ ಇಲ್ಲರಿ ಪ್ರತಿಭೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
His father, Shekharappa, responded to Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi's controversial comment that 90% of Indians who study medicine abroad fail to clear qualifying exams in India, even as tens of thousands of Indians remain stranded in war-hit Ukraine.
Kindly look into the matter and see that donation it's very bad, and all these intelligent students, they are going to study in abroad. They think that education here, if they plan to get that education here, they have to pay crores to get that seat. And the same education, better than this, they are getting very good education in abroad.
NDTV questioned the union minister over his insensitive remarks, and he continued to maintain his silence.
So you made such an insensitive statement and you don't want to apologize for that, and you still call that right?
In Chalagiri village, other than Naveen, 2 more students study in Kharkiv Medical University. About 500 meters away from Naveen's house is 23-year-old Amit Venkatesh's house. Amit is a senior of Naveen at Kharkiv National Medical University. He is the only child of Savita and Venkatesh. While his mother is a homemaker, his father runs a kirana store. Amit is yet another student who secured 97% in pre-university. However, he could not secure a medical seat. With absolutely no savings, Amit applied for a student loan for rupees 20 lakhs.
ಜನರಲ್ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಜನರಲ್ ಇರೋದ್ರ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೀಟ್ ಸಿಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಕೋಟಿ ಗಂಟಲೆ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡೋಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಭಾರತ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇರೋದು ಹಾಗೆ.
ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೋಟಿ?
ಎಸ್ 1.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ನಮಗೆ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. 1.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಕೊಡಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಲಾಗಲ್ಲ. 3 ಜನ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ನಮಗೆ.
They are all not from affluent families. They cannot afford the education in Karnataka. Nearly 693 students from the state are pursuing MBBS in Ukraine. Sources in the government tell us they are all from, in fact, middle-class families. The cost of studying medicine in Ukraine is just 1/4 of the cost here in Karnataka. In Chalagiri, with camera person Govind Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.
Well, that's all the time we have on the news tonight.